In this tutorial, we're going to be looking at in-cell formulas as a way to achieve data automation in Excel. This is kind of ground level work we're doing here, but we're going to learn some new things and apply it to different cases. And again, we're just stepping forward towards more robust data automation. So in-cell formulas are the foundation. And so let's begin. We're all familiar with in-cell formulas. In Excel, you can type in a cell, you can type in the equal sign and then some kind of operation, 8 plus 8, or this plus this, and Excel will do that calculation for you, and that's great. The task that we're presented today is to parse this data set here. So we have some provider data given to us every week, and every week we need to do some kind of basic data processing and manipulation on this data to get it ready to be passed to the next team. And one of those steps is to take the mednec set ID and to capture the clause code at the end of this ID and simply put it into this cell. So in this case, we would have S here, we'd have S, 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 M, and S. Now, when we feed this to our next team, the next team runs it through some data automation, and they need to have these letters just like this, or else the next step's automation will break. Well, that's our job, and guess what? We don't know how many lines of code or contracts there are. I mean, sometimes it's 10,000, sometimes it's 50,000, and so we need to figure out a way to extract this value and put it here in an automated way. We don't want to be, hunting and pecking and typing. Our eyes will go mad and it'll take us hours to do. So this is our job. Let's figure out how to do this with in-cell formulas. Well, there's in Excel with formulas, there's always 5 different ways to do things. The typical way that we parse data is using either the left, right, or the mid functions. And so the left function starts at the left of some text, and then you pass in some details about what you want to do, and it will pass you back from the left that amount of text. The right will start from the right and go this way and give you text coming back this way, and the mid will give you some text in the middle. So this is three different ones we're going to use today. There's also the replace. I'm not going to demonstrate that, but you may see as we're working how valuable this could be. And then I want to introduce the idea of something called helper columns as we're writing these formulas. In other words, sometimes it's not straightforward where you can just use one function and then get what you want. Sometimes you have to use 2 or 3 of these at one time, and helper columns can be really an asset in that way. So let's begin. We're going to work on this one together. So what I want you to do is I want you to have this data set open. I'll show you which one in just a second. Have it open, have it next to you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to follow along. So I'm going to talk and demonstrate a little bit. You're going to pause it. You're going to go to the data set. You're going to practice and then you're going to come back to the video, press play, and continue. So don't watch this video all the way through. Stop it. Go do a little bit of work, come back and play. That's the best way to use this. If you try to watch it all the way through, you're going to forget steps and you're going to have to end up watching it a few times. So just trust me on this. Do a little bit of work, pause it, watch a little bit, do a little bit of work, come back and forth like that. So let's go to the data set itself. So the data set we have open is provider data set, and we're specifically looking in columns R and S. So R, they give us the data. S, this is where they want us to populate. Now, I'm going to demonstrate something here. Sometimes you'll get into Excel and you'll want to write some equations. So I don't know, let's say 8 times 8. Now, we expect that that's going to generate the value 64 in this cell, but why did it keep it as equals 8 times 8? Because if you see our column here, the cell formatting, so if I go to home and then my formatting option here, we formatted this as text, or it came as text, let's say. And so what we need to do is we need to get this out of the text formatting because Excel is only going to show this. It's not going to try to calculate text. So we need to change the format. So I'm going to click on the whole column. I'm going to click on the letter S. Then I'm going to go to my formatting and I'm going to click General. Now, still nothing happened. Well, what all I need to do is double click here and hit Enter. And now it's going to work. So notice if I change that now to 5, now our in-cell formulas are working. Okay, so let's get comfortable with a few of these functions that I was just talking about. Let's start with the function write. Notice that when I type write in and then I open a parentheses, Excel gives me these little tooltips. So it's telling me what value it's expecting, and then a comma, and then what other value it's expecting here. So what value is it expecting? Well, it's expecting the text that we want to go to the right of. So here, I'm going to click on this cell because this is the text that I want to parse. Notice now if I hit a comma, it jumps over to number of characters. Well, how many characters over do I want to go to get this value? Well, I want to go 2. And then I'm going to close the parentheses, hit return. So wow, look at that. It went from the right 2 characters, brought back the S, but the finicky thing is that it has this this parentheses here, and that's not what we want. This will break the macros in the later stages when we pass this data set. Even though we're close, this is not right. We're close though, and what I can do is I can send this down. So there's a little black triangle right here. If I double click on that, I can send it down. If I spot check it, M, S, M, and I can go all the way down and see that that's the case. So that's great. Okay, but it's a problem, isn't it? Because there's 2 values here. We just want 1. Well, the easiest way to solve this is to add a helper column, or consider this a helper column. And what I'll do is I'll insert a column right next to it. Let me get it centered here. So I'm going to copy this over because this is going to be our final destination here, and I'm going to call this the helper column. So this is the helper column. Here's our final column. Well, what do we want to do? Now that we've extracted this, what we can now do is we can use the left function. Again, it's saying, hey, what value do I want to pass into this function? Well, I want to pass this value now. And how many characters over do I want to go from the left? So I'm going to go this way. Well, we know that I just want to go 1 character over. So that's the equation. Hit enter, and look what it did. It parsed out my data. I run that all the way down, and again, spot check it. Boom. Everything's looking good. So this is called the helper column. Now, in the end, I can't have this in the data set because this will mess up things moving forward. So I need to delete this column. But I want you to be aware of something. If I delete this column, it's going to mess up this equation because this is still an equation. If you look here, it's still referencing this column number here, S2. And in this case, S3 and so forth. And if I delete this, it's going to ruin this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this whole column. I'm going to copy it. Then I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose paste as values. Now all that did was it wrote over it the same information, but this time it pastes it as a value, not an equation. So if you look up here, it's M. Now what I can do is I can delete this column. Boom. Now I'm ready to go. Look at how quick that was. So that was how to use a helper column to achieve the task that we wanted. Now, wonder if we got a little smart and we didn't want to use a helper column. Is there a way that we can do this all in one cell? And of course there is. Um, I'm going to push that one to the next video. So this video, we're going to stop here. Again, hopefully you've been following along as we've been working. So by now you should have the results that you want. Um, and if not, you can rewind a little bit and try to figure it out. Um, but 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 see if you can accomplish this before we move on to the next video, which is combining. Instead of using a helper cell, we can combine formulas in cells to achieve what we want without having to add multiple columns.